Now would recognize distinguished young lady from Ohio, Ms. Kaptur, for her remarks on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I spent most of my life working in the field of housing and community development before being elected to Congress and rise in strong opposition to this particular transportation, housing, and urban development bill. It basically cuts nearly $6 billion over last year's appropriations for housing and community development. That's an enormous cut at a time when in places like I represent, the average family cannot afford to buy a home. I don't know how many members would want to raise their hands and recognize that's happening in districts across this country, but it actually is. And what I'm seeing happening in districts like mine is we have more homeless, and the mobile home parks that we have are deteriorating to a point where it doesn't even look like America anymore. And so the area of housing is critical to the American people. So to cut back at this point where people can't even afford rent, I was with a gentleman the other day, and he cannot afford $800 a month for rent. He can't. What's he supposed to do? He's 75 years old, and there isn't any more room in the publicly subsidized housing, and what does exist is too expensive for him to move in. Where does he go? And he's not well. This is not just happening in my district, it's happening across the country. The cuts, I was sitting here and doing a little bit of math. If under the Republican bill, which rewarded billionaires, okay, you're adding trillions to the deficit and to the debt, the accumulated debt of the country. Every year, those billionaires are going to get $340,000 a year in a tax refund. $340,000. In my district, that would house just one billionaire's tax cut for just 1 year would allow me to house 340 more people in my district. Over 10 years, that one person who wouldn't get, he'd get more tax cuts, but he wouldn't get $340,000 more. Just that one person could house 3,400 people in a district like mine. That's pretty darn good. And so I think some have too much, and others can barely survive. Barely survive. And that's happening across our country, not just where I represent, where people believe in work. They want to work. They want to work at a wage that gives them a decent life. And by that I mean food. A lot of them can't afford a car, but some type of shelter that's decent. And this bill doesn't take us in that direction. One of the people I represent is a 72-year-old retired nursing assistant, 72 years old. She lives in a HUD-supported apartment and hasn't had a working elevator for months. Every day, she climbs 3 flights of stairs up and down to buy her groceries, lug them up, do her laundry, and keep her grandkids in tow. The landlord says repairs are delayed because there's no federal funding coming in, and this bill will make sure there just isn't any. Now, that isn't healthy for the country. There are some folks who simply have too much, and they don't need more. They really don't. It might actually be better for them if they had to struggle a little bit more, so they didn't lose sight of other people that live in this country. And we don't want our neighborhoods to deteriorate, but they are, because there isn't enough to support rehabilitation of housing in this bill. And what a tragedy for our country. It doesn't meet the moment. The rail passenger service issue is extremely important. We are so far behind the rest of the world, it's an embarrassment. If you doubt what I say, just go up to Canada. You can go from one end of the country to the other on really decent rail. We can't do that. And we have 350 million people. We're going up to 500 million folks. So for your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, think about the country you're leaving them, inadequately prepared to function. Our highways are crowded. We got truck jams all over the middle west part of the country. We can't get more rail in order to haul all these containers and so forth. We can't get a sea, land, rail configuration to relieve all of the stress on our streets because the federal government is under-investing in transportation, which this bill also does. So I just say, this is a wake-up call. I'm not going to support this bill because I know America can do a whole lot better than we're doing in this bill. I feel sorry for us as a country. And I hope that enough people wake up to say, you know what, we can do better than this. We can create a better way of life for our people. And that starts with where they live and the kind of transportation systems they can have to get to work in the new America. Thank you, and I yield back.